They all know what's coming. The grips, the off balances, the entries. Andy Murasaki isn't hiding his intentions. He's hunting for the X guard every single time. But here's the real question. If everyone knows, why is it so difficult to stop? I first heard the idea of applying a funnel to Jiu-Jitsu on a BJJ Mental Models podcast episode, which I'll link below to give them well-deserved credit. Although the application and building process of a funnel can be complicated, the analogy itself is pretty easy to understand. Just like a funnel, you're starting broadly and ending narrowly, with the purpose of playing into your strengths and bringing your opponent into your territory where you have the unfair advantage. So we have to ask ourselves, how can we connect all the dots from point A to arrive at the goal of point B? And to explore this concept, I wanted to look through the lens of elite athletes over the course of a series of long-form videos. Beginning with Andy Murasaki, I've always been a fan because of his well-rounded and submission-oriented style, and have known I've wanted to do a study on him, but it wasn't until I started really reviewing his matches that I noticed a consistent theme throughout. It turns out that when Andy sweeps his opponents, pretty much 9 out of 10 times, some variation of X guard is at play. Now, clearly Andy has an amazing skill of sweeping his opponents through the use of X guard, but he wouldn't be able to hit these sweeps unless he was able to make his way into the position. And that's where the idea of a funnel comes into play. Rather his opponents do this, so he does that flowchart type of study, we're going to focus on the concepts that keep pulling them into X guard no matter how they try to defend. If you happen to also be interested in other aspects of Andy's X guard, such as maintaining and finishing with sweeps and attacks, he covers it in depth in his instructional over on BJJ Fanatics. Also, instead of covering all of his entry options, I'll mainly be taking into account the most common entries made through the study of over 30 separate X guard sequences over numerous matches. All the sequence notes and timestamps, along with the entire video script, can be downloaded over on my Patreon. Both the links to Andy's instructional and my Patreon will be down below. Alright, now let's get to it. To begin his instructional, Andy lays out the 4 main X guard variations, which I thought was a really good way to introduce the position, especially so we can understand the few end goal options that are aiming to be achieved off the many possible ways to enter. First is single leg X. Your body is basically wrapped around one leg. Next is modified X. The inside hook goes behind the far leg, outside hook is now under the near hip. Then standard X. That outside hook shifts to the far hip. And lastly, reverse X. It's the same as standard X, except the hooks are swapped. Same family, different hook placements. Each variation has its unique aspects, but for now, we're just mapping the end goals so we can understand what Andy is trying to arrive at over and over again. X guard is at the very least a secondary guard, meaning to get into it, you need to use something else to close the distance. And those somethings are what I like to think of as initiators, guards that tend to be easier to enter where off balances can first be created. Andy's main initiator is De La Hiva. It's like the heart of his X guard funnel system where he uses a variety and combination of both grip and leg placements, and it's especially easy to enter since most athletes in the gi pass on their feet and not on their knees, which is something more commonly seen in no-gi to avoid leg locks. Anyways, since X guard is a secondary guard, it relies heavily on the off balance, and from De La Hiva, Andy has 3 main methods for creating it, all of which aim to shift weight off the leg he's entering in on. These 3 are the stomp and tilt, underhook De La Hiva, and the overhead pull from bottom HQ. They all have different mechanics, but they all lead to the same destination. In the first method, where Andy stomps at the inner thigh, he maintains some kind of upper body grip to affect the posture as he sits up and rotates to his hip. With the weight shifted away from him, he's clear to pummel into any variation of X guard. Now, when entering from the stomp and tilt, you're most likely to find Andy using the far sleeve, although it doesn't offer as much posture control as a collar grip. One reason is that by gripping the far sleeve, his opponents aren't able to stuff his leg into headquarters or pull it to the outside of their hip. Basically, he gets to dictate exactly where he wants to position his leg. Second is underhook De La Hiva. From your standard De La Riva, Andy hips out, creating the angle to shoot the underhook, and then grabs his own shin to lock in the position. This variation creates stronger inward knee pressure, making the back take a constant threat. And that's what used to feed his berimbolo game. When opponents started defending by stuffing the free leg, Andy evolved to use that defense as the bridge into his X-guard. In this example, Andy initially uses underhook De La Riva to begin to hunt for the berimbolo. His opponent Jamie is able to negate the threat by turning in and stuffing the free leg, to which Andy counters by rotating onto the opposite hip. Having the underhook gives Andy the ability to more easily elevate Jamie's leg and pummel into modified X. The last method from De La Riva is what would be considered for the guard passer as headquarters, or HQ for short. To enter, Andy initially places or allows his opponent to stuff his free leg between their legs, while his De La Riva hook becomes more of a clamp used to restrict their movement. Now, HQ is a generally advantageous position for the passer that can open up opportunities to continue to close the distance. But ironically enough, Andy prefers to be there. This is because the passer's options shrink to just a few predictable routes, compared to when his leg is on the outside, where they can create more separation and launch into more dynamic passes like toreandos, throw-bys, or leg drags. From here, Andy's primary entry comes off of his overhead off balance. Usually while gripping the collar, Andy pulls his opponent overhead, at the same time using his foot hooking behind their butt to create elevation, then sucking his knees to his chest and shooting his hips upwards. Before we get into the concepts that make Andy's funnel so hard to deal with, I'd like to thank Gameness for sponsoring this video and sending me the most quality gear out there. This is the Gameness Air Pro 3.0, and it's built for competitors. It's IBJJF legal at 2.2 pounds in an A2, and the jacket is only 380 grams per square meter, so making weight becomes one less thing to stress about. You've also got a clean competition fit, along with subtle branding that keeps it custom ready for your Academy logo. On the pants, the tapered legs cut down extra fabric so they feel lighter and less bulky, and tightening them is easy. Pull the sides first to cinch the waistband, then finish with a flat lay drawstring, which actually stays tied. For Nogi, their pro-ranked long sleeve rash guard is IBJJF compliant, with flat lock stitching and moisture wicking fabric, and the WazaFlex 7-inch shorts are super light, featuring 4-way stretch, moisture wicking, plus a hidden pocket. If you want competition ready gear built to move, check out Gameness, link below. So now we know Andy's main ways of entering from De La Riva, but the main question is, why is it so hard to stop? Well, I think much of it can be attributed to a few concepts, beginning with layered off-balancing. Basically, Andy isn't trying to off-balance you once, he's trying to keep you in a permanent state of saving your base. And there's two phases to it. First, he can cycle threats to keep you reacting, then once he gets you compromised, he can stack another layer to seal the entry. From De La Riva, he cycles those threats by looking to pull overhead, stomp at the thigh or groin, and tilt backwards or side to side. In this example, Andy pummels his leg into HQ and then immediately stomps at the thigh. With his opponent Luis now postured upright, he then attempts to enter single leg X on the other side. Luis counters, but Andy is right back to stomping, then elevating, then stomping, and then back to elevating. He leaves little to no room for his opponents to actually initiate a pass, because they're so caught up in defending. And the end of this sequence is what I like to call stacking the layers, because once his opponent's base is compromised, Andy transitions from pushing away at the thigh to more so elevating at the groin. Just because you used one method doesn't mean you can't transition to any other at any point during the entry. But all this only works if you can keep control while they're trying to maintain their base. That's why Andy's grip variety matters. If his opponents fight or avoid grips, he can easily adjust. Try to posture up and avoid the collar grip, Andy grips the far sleeve. Preoccupied with denying the far sleeve grip, he grips the cross sleeve. Okay, fine. Denying all collar and sleeve grips, he anchors himself to the hip by gripping the belt. And because an opponent who's generally looking to avoid upper body grips might stand with more of an upright posture, Andy can capitalize off the available space between their legs and use the sleeves or belt to shoot his leg through the middle and enter into single leg X on the far side. Now, Andy's grip variety isn't random, and it's not just he can enter from any grip, it's how he dictates your base. Nearly every grip he chooses is really about one thing: deciding what the cross-side arm or the arm that's on the side of the De La Riva is allowed to do. Sometimes he forces it into a cross post. Other times he captures it with a grip so it can't post at all. Either way, the focus is on clearing the pummel lane into X guard. Here we have Andy off balancing with the far sleeve grip. The cross hand blocking the leg pummel now has to base out to prevent the sweep. Cross hand outposted equals an opportune time for the entry. In this example from bottom HQ with the collar grip, Andy pulls overhead, the cross post is forced, and the leg pummels in. In instances where he's already controlling the cross hand, no cross post is needed, just enough of an off balance to create space for the entry. De La Riva is the main path of the funnel, and for that reason, there's times when his opponents may look to avoid it by passing on their knees to stay low and defensive. This is where Spider Guard and the Knee Shield come in to act as alternate paths into the same system, and the important part is that they share the same core idea, combining the collar pull and knee lever for the overhead off balance. When going for the knee shield entry while gripping the collar, Andy initially uses his free hand to frame the guard and control the distance with a sleeve grip. He then rocks up to his elbow and grips the pants. With the framing hand gone, Andy immediately hips in and pulls his opponent Azake overhead. The camera angle doesn't catch the half guard knee lever in action, but in this example, you can see how it helps in bumping the opponent's base forward. Compared to the knee shield, the Spider Guard can be a safer choice because it allows for more distance control, and this is because of the foot on the biceps. From here, along with the collar grip and knee lever, Andy pulls his opponent overhead to enter single leg X. Different starting guards, same result. The last initiator is close guard, which allows Andy to safely begin his funnel from the near distance. For Andy, close guard is mainly a handoff. He uses it to connect into K guard, and from there, the funnel transitions into its connector phase. In part 2, amongst other topics, we'll break down the connectors, the middle steps that can link these initiators to the destination of X guard. And that's it for part 1, the initiators of Andy's funnel. He isn't finding X guard by accident, he's building it. De La Riva is the main path, and the other initiators are just different ways of solving the same problem, creating the off balance to open a path to get underneath. If you want to support the channel while at the same time gain access to exclusive mini studies, be sure to check out my Patreon. And also, don't forget to check out Andy Murasaki's instructional for yourself. He's a great teacher with really valuable insights, and I'm sincerely thankful and lucky that he's been very supportive in the making of this video. I'll have it linked down below, along with all of his social media handles. Thank you to all of my Patreon supporters, Gameness for sponsoring this video, and thank you everyone for watching. Peace.